Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, the place where people truly believe they can do what they want, when they want. And in today's episode, a Karen decides that she can steal OP's Christmas presents. And guys, she even fights back when OP defends herself. I hope you enjoy the stories, don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So there I was in a rural Shaw's. For those not in an area with a Shaw's, it's a standard supermarket with a club that makes things cheaper, which is their way of hiding their markup. Stuff is just cheaper a few miles down the road. Unfortunately, there were a few things I could only get there, like my flavor of caffeine and food for the dogs. I was using my power chair, which back then I needed more often. So I'm leaning forward to get a flat of Monster and stick it under my seat on the rack when a woman pushes on my back and says, "Hey, I need that. You don't. You're younger." As I was belted in, nothing happened. And it was only luck that I was belted in because usually I would have undone it to pick up something heavy. So I sit up, push her hands off of me and said, "What the F?" She then shakes the back of my chair like it's a dinner chair or something, and she goes, "You can use the scooter. This chair is better and I'm old." The woman then points at the crappy supermarket scooter that she's using, and I stare at her in total shock for a moment and then say, this is my wheelchair, get away from me." It's at that point the woman says, "You can't use personal stuff in supermarkets, give me the chair." She then starts shaking it with each statement. So at that point, I just hit the maximum speed on my power chair and I took off, ripping it out of her hands. It was either let go or be dragged on her face because she clearly wasn't super steady and she needed a scooter herself. And with that, we're off on the dumbest chase in creation, mostly because the supermarket scooters go slower than any other mobility device. I buzzed over to the service desk and I cut in line and said, "I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, but there's a woman following me, trying to push me out of my chair and take it." And from behind me, they can hear, "Get back here," and the most wheezy buzz of the slow scooter. In the moment, it was really enraging that she was being so entitled and frustrating, and I just wanted to get my dog food and leave. But in memory, it was the funniest thing that I've ever seen. They let me into the back of the office area, and they and the whole line of people waiting just sort of watched as she came over. And it took so long. The scooter was so slow, and she was yelling how I don't need the chair and how she should get it because she's older and more disabled. It takes like a full 20 seconds for her to get from one end of the store to the other, and everyone's just staring as she rides full of glory at like 0.001 miles per hour, with her face red and her glasses hanging off one ear. The woman finally gets to the desk, and they calmly explain to her that the wheelchair isn't store property, and if she tries to steal from another customer, they'll have to call the police. That's when the woman starts shouting at the employees that she knows full well that you can't bring personal equipment into the supermarket, so they're lying. And that's when the other woman behind the counter says, with a bit more attitude, "Lady, why do you think we care if you bring a wheelchair into the supermarket?" At this point, I think like something either clicked or she just realized that an entire line of people were staring at her, and not kindly. She then suddenly asked where to find the artichokes, and I almost coughed on my own spit. The worker just stared back and pointed back where the woman had come from and said, "Produce." And then the woman left. I admit that for the rest of my visit, I avoided any aisle she was in because I didn't want her close enough to grab me again. Now I can laugh about it for the comedy moment it was. In retrospect, I feel that there's a reason here, like her husband told her they shouldn't buy a thing like that because they're not allowed to be in the supermarket. That's the best answer I could possibly come up with for that wild nonsense. So wherever you are, crazy lady, I hope you bought your own Eagle HD. Yeah, I can see why that would be so stressful in the moment, but funny in the playback, guys, because it's not every day that you see a scooter chase in a supermarket. And I'm with OP. Either that's an excuse she used to steal OP's personal mobility device, or someone told her, because if that's the case, what's a wheelchair-bound person supposed to do? Like, are they supposed to check their chair in at customer service and ask to be put in the store's crappy scooters? And this person comments, "People in wheelchairs should always carry on their person a whacking stick," just for this sort of situation. And I agree, because the amount of stories I've read where crazy Karens try to eject people from their wheelchairs are getting ridiculous. So 4 years ago, I managed a chain of sub shops in the Pacific Northwest. This story happened on Christmas Day. Our boss liked having the stores open from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on holidays. Usually, it was slow enough that only one worker was needed to run the shop. And since I don't celebrate Christmas, I volunteered to cover the Christmas Day shift so my staff could spend the day with family. The day went by very slowly, with customers trickling in here and there, enough to stay busy. Most were people without holiday plans, or they were picking up food for pre-dinner. It was about 3 p.m. when this entitled mother and her husband came in. Karen was holding a very small, very fussy baby. The husband ordered the food, and they sat down at one of our booths. A mother and teen son came in right after them, and they also sat to eat their food. Since it was slow, I was using that day to get some overdue maintenance done in the back. I was assembling a new chip rack to replace the old rickety one, when I hear a knock on the door to the kitchen. I open the door to see the teenage son just standing there. The guy leans in and said, I'm sorry to bother you, but that couple with the baby, well, she's changing the baby's diaper right there on the table. So I step out into the lobby, and sure enough, Karen has her baby lying on one of the tables, changing him. She had nothing beneath him, so his bare bum was on the tabletop. It was also very clearly a number 2 because the smell was awful, and you could see that poop was smeared everywhere. The teen then went back to his mom, who was rapidly gathering up the remainders of their food, and she looked very green. So I approached Karen and said, "Hello, ma'am. I don't mean to be rude, but you can't change your child's diaper on the table." At that, Karen gives me a scathing look and says, "Well, why not?" I say to her, because this is the dining room of a restaurant. It's really unhygienic to have fecal matter where people eat. Karen replies, "Well, I have to change him here. You don't have a changing table in the bathroom, and your bathroom is dirty." Now, I'll admit, our bathroom is tiny. It only has room for a toilet and a sink, and no room for a changing station to fold down. I say to Karen, "I'm so sorry about that, ma'am. Our bathroom is too small for one. But that doesn't make it okay to change a poopy diaper in front of people who are trying to eat." The teen and his mother just fled out the door after throwing away most of their unfinished food. Karen says to me, "Well, where am I supposed to change him? If you don't offer a place to change my baby, tell me, where do you want me to change him?" I tell her, well, most mothers change them in the backseat of their car. And Karen looks at me with a look of horror and says, "I can't change him in there. I'll get poop all over my seats." I say to her, "So instead, you chose to get poop all over these tables where people eat?" It's at that point, Karen starts shouting how she just wants to change her baby, how it's our fault for not having a changing table, etc. I told her she's welcome to finish changing her baby. I then told her that I would bring her a bucket of sanitizer so she could clean off the table. And it's at that point Karen says, "It's not my job to clean your tables." Now I just wanted the lady gone, so I tell her to finish up and I'll take care of the table. I went back to the kitchen to get the cleaning supplies and make a bucket of strong sanitizer water. The whole time, I could hear Karen complaining to her husband in the lobby. She only stopped ranting when they finally left. I come out of the kitchen to drag the table in the back, and that's when I saw what Karen had left for me. She had taken the dirty diaper and she had placed it open, dirty side down on the table, and she had smeared it around in circles too. There were literal poop smears all over the table. She also took the wet wipes she used to clean her baby and thrown them all over the floor. Her husband also wrote a "Merry effing Christmas" note on a napkin, and he left it on the table along with all of his trash. It was beyond disgusting. I dragged the table outside to the parking lot and I tried hosing it down by dumping buckets of hot water on it. The table had tiles on it, including grout and grooves between the tiles. Even after I scrubbed and bleached, the spaces between the tiles were stained yellow from the poop. It wasn't a good look, especially knowing what had stained it. I did not feel confident that I could ever make it food safe again. I then called up my boss and told him what happened and that I was closing up early. We watched the security footage when the boss came, and you could literally see the mom scooping up the diaper, smearing it in circles on the table, and then laughing. We ended up throwing away that table. It was the worst holiday shift ever. Yeah, honestly, I don't know how some people are so freaking terrible and that disgusting. Oh, I'm not allowed to change my kid here? Well, I'll show you. And with the camera footage, I think the boss should have contacted the police in an attempt to catch and prosecute these people. Or at the very least, posting these people on social media or something and letting the internet do its thing. So I honestly can't believe that this happened, but here we go. I was online shopping earlier last week when I saw these gorgeous outdoor Christmas lights at a really good price at a local store. My mother loves Christmas, but she's never had the money or time to put lights up, but she's longed to have some. So I decided that as an early Christmas present, I would get her some that she could be proud of and decorate her house for her. I purchased some great deals online, like some light-up reindeer, some colorful string lights, a snowflake-shaped light, and some light-up candy canes for her candy cane lane. So I ordered them, paid with my credit card, and was actually able to pick them up the same day. When I get there was a long line at customer service, so I decided to browse for a bit. I ended up getting a super great deal on a pair of dripping icicle lights, the buy one get one free deal. I then added a strand of light-up garland so she could decorate inside with more than just the tree. I then get in line, wait maybe 20 minutes, and when I'm at the counter, I presented my email proof of purchase, and suddenly my own cart is slammed into my side. Hard. It knocked me on the floor and nearly made me whack my head. The crazy lady who did that then tried to push my own cart over me, all while screaming, "I kid you not, you stupid little thief." This lady was literally trying to sell that I stole her cart. Needless to say, I'm super pissed and I'm really in pain. Security's called and I'm screaming at the lady to stop lying and to give me back my cart. And then I end up detained by security. That's when I ripped the receipt out of my pocket and shoved it in his face saying, "I have the receipt, you idiot." Startled, the guy steps back and stares at the receipt, and I snap at him that I have the receipt, that woman doesn't. Now call me a damn ambulance because I can't take the bus home now because of how in pain my body was from being rammed by my own cart. That's when an older security guard, a manager, and the head honcho supervisor come over, and the older guard starts berating the younger guy for jumping to conclusions. The manager then checks my receipt, and sure enough, it's all mine. The crazy lady has no receipt. Surprise, surprise. Of course, the lady then starts wailing how I must have stolen her receipt. Of course, they had CCTV of me with all my items, from me buying them and then her coming along and grabbing them and ramming me with my own cart. I then had to sit there on a bench with all my items while the crazy lady was detained. The police and EMTs arrived not long after, and the EMTs loaded me on the stretcher. My ankle was badly twisted from being knocked over, and I just wanted to go to the hospital to be safe. I give my statement and press charges before turning to the supervisor as he comes over. The guy's very apologetic, and he asked if I wanted compensation for this disaster. I told him that all I wanted was for the idiot security guard to either be retrained in thinking for once or be fired, and that the crazy lady who was now screaming, "You'll be hearing from my son, he's a lawyer," to be permabanned from their entire chain. Because who knows if she's gotten away with it before or would do it again. The super agreed that that was more than fair. The security guy who detained me improperly looked horrified, and apparently the crazy lady heard that and she went deathly pale before she fainted right then and there. My ankle ended up in a cast, my left hip and knee in pain, and my right elbow was bruised. I'm still pissed, it's not even funny. I'm also in Canada, so I can't make her pay for medical bills as it's covered by the provincial plan. Holy cow, guys, I have read a lot of crazy entitled stories, and I'm still shocked at the audacity of some people. Like, what in the world was that lady thinking? Not only trying to steal OP's stuff like that, but then trying to run her over with a shopping cart. And honestly, that is some go straight to jail BS. I just hope that her lawyer's son, if he's actually a lawyer, educates her on assault, theft, and tells her how much trouble she's potentially in for doing something so incredibly crazy. So I'm a 29-year-old female, and my husband, who's 33, is the breadwinner. I'm a stay-at-home mom. We used to both work, but due to medical problems, I could not keep working. As a result, I don't have what they call fun money or money to spend however I want. My husband gives me money only to spend on the house or the kids, but that's that. I might borrow money here and there, or try to figure something out if I needed essential stuff like hygiene products. Well, this Christmas, my husband gives me $600 as a Christmas gift. I freaked out, thinking now I have to get him a decent gift to match this. So I went shopping and I got him the most affordable thing on his wish list, which is a $180 pair of sneakers in his favorite color. I didn't show him the gift until we visited his parents' house for Christmas. And when it was time for gift opening, he opens the gift, saw the sneakers, and he looked extremely upset, like he was about to blow up. So I asked him what's up, and he asked why in the blue hell would I decide to waste money and get him some stupid sneakers, aka the cheapest gift on his wish list. I said it's all I could afford, but he literally lashes out and said, BS, I gave you $600 and that's the price for a new gaming console. And it was right there at the top of my wish list. Why didn't you buy me that? And the thing is, he said it in front of his parents. It was so awkward and embarrassing, and I felt horrible. I wanted to disappear. But I apologized and said I was sorry, but I had other stuff I needed to buy and the money wasn't enough. He took it as I was blaming him for not giving me enough money, and he picked an argument with me about how wasteful and financially irresponsible I am, otherwise I wouldn't be struggling with money for so long. I disagreed and said I don't have a salary due to medical issues, not being irresponsible. I told him that he could get the gaming console himself since he has the money, but he got all dramatic and he rants how he wouldn't because then he'll be judged for getting anything for himself. That I should have read his mind or something. His parents tried to get involved, but he straight up told me how disappointed he was and said that I ruined his Christmas, and then went upstairs and avoided talking to me until we got back home, and that's when the whole argument restarted. He kept repeating that he was so disappointed and that I ruined Christmas for him, even saying, "Good job screwing up," even after I pointed out how rude it was of him to react like that in front of his parents. He's wanting an apology at the moment, and he's still upset about what I did, so am I the a-hole? Yeah, so OP is 1,000,000% not the a-hole in this situation, and it sounds to me like her husband ruined his own Christmas by not being grateful for what he got. Like, dude, what do you expect from a wife who can't work and has very little money? And the whole, you should have known I wanted a gaming console is even dumber. Like, did the guy really gift OP $600 for Christmas and expected her to use all that money on a gift for him and not her or the kids? In my opinion, that makes him the clear a-hole. And this person says, you are not the a-hole. Your husband is abusing you. Like, this is financial abuse. You deserve money to spend on yourself. Doesn't matter if you don't make a salary. You do work keeping house. Not only that, but yelling at you like that and all, especially in front of people, is also abusive. Please look into getting disability or unemployment and get away from him. This person comments, not the a-hole. Clear-cut financial and emotional abuse going on here. You have to borrow money to get hygiene products, and he's disappointed in you and you ruined Christmas. He gave you $600 early for Christmas and clearly fully expected you to use all of it on his Christmas gift for himself. The one that was on the top of his list. Yeah, guys, like, this time of year really brings out people's true colors. Guys, let me know what you would do if you're in an OP situation. So my wife and I have always had an annual Christmas party at our house with our friends and siblings each year. Last year, 2 of our friends had a child shortly before the party. Now, the child wasn't invited last year either, but we weren't bothered, given that it was more like bringing an uninvited potato than a person, because it was an infant at the time. With that said, this year the child is walking and whatnot, and they had told us that they were getting a sitter, so there seemed to be no reason to mention that it would not be appropriate to bring the child to our party. So without even asking or even telling us the child was coming, they just show up with their kid, and we had no way set up our house to be child-proofed. As a result, we had to close a bunch of doors that were intended to be left open to allow guests to spread out into the basement and living room. So for the most of the party, we had about 14 people cramped in our small kitchen, as the parents let their 1-year-old child roam freely. Our party is by no means a rager, but people were drinking a lot less than normal. And my wife and I weren't drinking at all, as we're responsible for what happens in our house. And the parents were not keeping a good eye on their child. But the one thing that really bugs me is what the mom decided to do. so she decided to tape up a bunch of our kitchen drawers and cabinets shut, without asking to do so, with our tape, which meant that she went through our drawers without asking, as obviously the kid was going around opening everything and pulling stuff out. As the unattended child continued around, he kept messing with our dog, including taking food out of her bowl and pulling on her fur, but the parents still didn't do anything. Being between the dog and the child became a part of my duties as host. Our dog is a rescue and quite skittish, and by some miracle of the universe, it just put up with the child each time I wasn't in the right place at the right moment. The child also pulled the bells off our door and broke them, that our dog has used since the day she was adopted to signal she needs to go outside, and now she can't seem to understand that our new different looking bells are for the same purpose. Next, the child was getting tired and cranky, and instead of taking the child home, they decided that it was time to go into our bedroom, which was closed. This greatly embarrassed my wife, as we had cleaned all the public places completely, and we didn't do much for the areas the guests wouldn't see. Uninvited, and without asking, they also set up a playpen for their child, which they built, and then left the trash in our house before returning to the party themselves. They didn't leave the party until 10, basically killing around half the party for us, and much of the party for the other guests who didn't stay that late. I am by no means mad at the child, like they're a kid and they don't know any better, but the parents should have known not to bring their kids to an adult Christmas party. Yeah, being the host, I think OP was well within their rights to tell the couple to leave. Or at the very least, pulled the parents aside and been like, hey, we're friends, right? So I gotta tell you, your child needs to be under control because he's ruining this party. Like, I couldn't imagine people coming to my house and taping my drawers and cabinets closed like that, especially without permission. Like, that would have done it for me. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our slash entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's on our slash I don't work here lady, where a Karen starts trouble in a grocery store and forgets there's freaking cameras. Guys, go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.